Hey, you want to check out what's happening in alternative porn in France? Let me introduce you to Kora Rose Films. Founded by Carmina, a French-Mexican performer and longtime advocate for sex worker rights. This indie studio is doing things differently, putting performers first, pushing for diversity, and tackling industry issues head on, all of which keep all while keeping things hot and fun. One example, check out this series, 60 Minutes with. Carmina meets a fellow performer for 1 hour. No script, no plan, just sees where the moment takes them, and you get to be right there with them. Don't worry about whether you speak French or not. All films are either in English or subtitled, so you won't miss a thing. Curious? Head to carrierosefilms.com. That's Carrie rosefilms.com. Cams.com is a performer-run webcam studio working with models who want to make serious bank doing online sex work. Top Treasure Cams models are earning 100K plus a year, taking home weekly fat paychecks. We have a great affiliate program to reward you for any traffic you bring to the site. We help you set up with equipment, tech, sales techniques, monthly meetings, and so much more. Visit treasurecams.com to learn more about us and to cam with us. Have you ever been looking for an amazing queer cam performer? Well, I got you covered. You should check out TS Cami. Her super hot content is on Chatterbait, Twitter, Xhamster, and Reddit. Support this rad trans femme. Enter your fantasies. Big Fantasy is a porn star, stripper, femdom, and expert making your fantasies come true. Explore Fig's secret, luxurious world at AQUATAFANA collective.net and at Figs Fantasies on OnlyFans and Figs Fantasy on Instagram. She's waiting for you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Performers Pod. I'm Chelsea Poe, and I'm here today with AVN nominated Best Dom, Mistress Kora. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited to talk to you. Also, huge congrats on your AVN nomination. Was that your first AVN nomination?
Thank you. Yes, it was my very first nomination ever, so I was
Oh
really
my
excited.
God. That's a good first one to have. How was
Yeah.
that whole experience for you? Because we're like a little, I think we're nearly 2 months out from AVN now. Like reflecting on it, how was that?
It was a really good experience. Other than the fact that I got really sick about a couple days in, so that really sucked. But the experience itself, I mean, being a nominee, being able to walk the red carpet for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely amazing.
It's just like such a crazy experience. Like you've been in the industry for a minute, right?
No, I've only been in for, I would say about a year and a half now.
Oh my God. So you had that your first year in?
Yes.
I feel like
I
I feel
did
like
get it
you
here,
Oh, go
but
on.
nominated. I just went kind of as just to go. Um, but my first ever event was New Jersey Exotica back in, I guess it would have been October of 2023, and that's kind of when I say that I really got into the industry. That was about a month after I got fired from my job, and that's kind of when I jumped in with both feet.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the vibe you give is you've been in the industry for a while, just simply because like when I came across you, I'm like, oh wow, they're very confident. They're getting nominated for Best Dom. I just assumed I'm like, oh, you've been in for a minute, but welcome to the industry.
Oh,
First
thank
year
you.
getting an AVN nomination. That's amazing. So like you're from North Carolina, correct?
Yes, I live in North Carolina.
Is that where you're from originally?
I'm from Canada originally.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, I grew up a few hours away from the border. Are you from Ontario or another part?
From Nova Scotia, so
Oh, okay.
the Far East.
Yeah, totally.
York
Yeah,
and Lake.
I grew up Canada adjacent, like all my family vacations growing up were in Canada, so my geography on Canada is very good for an American, which I assumed everyone knew that until I moved to California. I'm like, oh yeah, you know the capital of Saskatchewan, and they're like, no, we don't. Like, oh, okay.
That's like me and my American geography. And when I don't know, like, I'm like Midwest, I don't know the Midwest at all. It's just like, like Utah and Arizona are like somewhere in there. I'm not really sure. And then I usually have to follow that up when I have to ask a stupid question about what the capital of a state is or where a state is. I get the looks like, like you're such a dumb blonde kind of thing. And it's and I follow it up with I'm Canadian originally, so I didn't study American geography.
Yeah, you don't need to know that. You're totally fine. So, what kind of brought you into the industry? Because you said a year ago you got fired from your job.
Back in September of 2022, my ex-husband and I split.
Hmm.
And so I was trying to make some extra money. I was trying to starting off on my own again, going from a two-income household to a one income, just to myself.
Yeah.
Um, Started live camming to try to make a little bit extra money, which led to me starting an OnlyFans account. I had previously done some dominatrix or some dom work. So I kind of got back into that,
Hmm.
got back to your lifestyle, um, and was doing all that kind of stuff. And I was still working as a flight nurse at that point. And then fast forward a year when I've been doing all this for a year now, and work found out about my side hustle, my OnlyFans, and they fired me.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That's so
Yeah,
fucked up.
sucked. I really loved my job and I separated the two. Now, I wasn't as deep into it as I am now. I did keep things very separate. I did show my face, but I tried to keep it, like I wasn't as open about everything as I
Hmm.
am. And somebody at work told on me and they found me on Instagram or Facebook or somewhere and they told on me and then I lost my job. I was fired immediately. And prior to that, I had been doing OnlyFans, but I was just kind of dabbling. Like I wouldn't even call myself a content creator at that point.
Mm.
Doing it, but I was just like dabbling. I might have shot like a terrible amateur video. Like I think I did one, or like with just me and a friend, or some masturbation videos and stuff. But I wasn't
Hmm.
really with it. And then I got fired. Um, and then I met some people and they told me about Exotica. So I ended up going to Exotica in New Jersey back in September, or sorry, I guess it was October of last year, so 2020.
Hmm.
I guess about a year and a half ago. And that's kind of like, I mean, when I went, I knew a couple people in the industry and I asked them, well, like, how do I do content there? Like, how do I meet people to do content with? And they're just like, you just kind of have to meet people. And I'm like, okay. So I wasn't really sure how to go about doing that. And it was like, what's required? Like, if I wanted to do content, do I need to test? Like, do I need a certain test?
Hmm.
And so she told me yes. So I got my first TTS test and I went to New Jersey Exotica and I didn't film anything. I didn't know anybody. And nobody really wanted to film with me, but I met so many people. I met so many amazing people, some porn stars. I got to meet Lauren Phillips and Katie Morgan. So that was really cool just meeting
Hmm.
them. Um, and that was kind of my introduction to the industry. And then I ended up going to DC Exotica and I actually filmed some videos there. And then from there, things just kind of took off. I ended up going to AVN. And AVN, I think, would be probably when I would say like I really started. I actually did some content. I did my first didn't do any paid shoots, but I did some bigger name content.
Hmm.
And then first paid shoot would have been April of last year of 2024 with Private Society. And then after that, it kind of like everything just happened. I started doing tons of content and posting everything and things took off.
That's so amazing. It's just like so interesting how the industry is now, where you just have to go to these events and you're like, okay, hopefully I can get some content out of this. And then obviously everyone, like, I don't think people understand how crazy busy all these conventions are and how crazy stretched everyone is. Like, we were trying to collab at AVN and I was stuck at the convention all day just trying to get my pass. And it's just like there's all these variables going on, and just like even to get one or two shoots out of a trip, you really have to count that as a success story, you know?
I think I ended up getting, I think I got 5 shoots at AVN. I didn't overbook myself. I think I had 10 to 12 booked, but I
Oh
had
my
to cancel
God.
a lot of them because I was sick. So I was kind of sad about that. But like I'm going to Chicago Exotica coming up, and I think I have 15 to 20 shoots booked.
Oh my God.
And when I
That's
did that, being a dom kind of helps out because not all my shoots are boy girl porn scenes. I throw in a mix of like, dominatrix and, girl girl. A lot of my girl scenes, I'm doming the girl, so I'm wearing a strap on and stuff. So yes, it's still like it's definitely physical, but it's a little bit easier on my pussy.
yeah, I feel like being a pro sub, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be covered in bruises. Okay, I can get two, three maybe before they start showing up too much. Something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit limited. That's so amazing. Yeah, I feel like when I first started seeing your content, you just had so much of it. So I was like, oh, you've been in the industry for a moment, but you've just really been hustling kind
Yeah,
of nonstop in the last year and a half.
yeah, when I go to events, I just really try to make it worth the while. I try to do as many scenes as I possibly can. I've started kind of traveling a little bit for content now, but I usually only shoot content probably at the big events. I might do the odd scene here and there, but for the most part, I try to cram everything in. Chicago Exotic is going to be crazy. I have a ton booked, and I'll be working 2 or 3 booths, I think, while I'm there.
There's an
So,
absolute beautiful dungeon in Chicago. I don't know if you know of it.
oh,
I will send you the info after. I shot there in October and I walked in and I was the first one to get to the dungeon and I was like, "Oh my God. I want to live here." Like even dungeon part aside, it's just so beautiful. I'm like, if this was just my apartment, I would be totally fine with that. It's super beautiful. I'll definitely pass along the info. Um, I really love shooting in Chicago. I feel like there's such a good like BDSM community there. There's also, do you know about the leather archives there? So there's like this museum for leather and fetish stuff that's in Chicago. They do different events there. Like I've had a screening there before. I think they do like live performances sometimes with people doing BDSM and stuff, but I highly suggest checking it out if you get a chance.
definitely have to send me all that info.
Yeah,
I'm
for
interested.
sure. So, was there really like any performers or any like content you saw that like really inspired you to get into, especially you mentioned doing some like BDSM stuff, but I feel like when people get into the industry, you usually have to have a little bit of an inspiration to get into the BDSM realm. Like, I don't feel like we're the most average in the industry, you know what I mean?
Um, my introduction was really weird into the industry. So,
Hmm.
I think 2005, I went to when I got was introduced to BDSM and the swinger lifestyle. I had gone to a swingers party with one of my best friends, first one ever. It
Hmm.
was it was scary. I wasn't used to it, that's for sure. And that's when I met 2 DOMs, and they kind of took me under their wing. And I watched them doing their thing with the guys, and I was like, wow, like this is fascinating. Like it's really an art, and I just loved it, and I was drawn in. They kind of took me under their wing, and they taught me a little bit of stuff. And then so I did that for about a year, just kind of learning and stuff, and doing a little bit
Hmm.
myself. And then I went to Saudi Arabia for a while. I left for Saudi, met my ex-husband, had my mini me. So like kind of got totally out of the lifestyle. And then when we
Yeah.
split, that's it. But I never really watched a lot of porn or a lot of BDSM stuff. A lot of my stuff is just like me. So maybe, and I don't really know, maybe my stuff is very different, but I try not to let other content kind of filter into mine. I like being unique, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
and
I
so I
think that's
like that.
yeah, do you think BDSM is like a core part of your sexuality or is it more of just like a performance thing that you like being in that realm?
I think it's a core part of my personality.
Hmm.
I find, yes, I do perform, and I do, the Dom scenes, but I think where where the BDSM really sits for me is when I do private sessions,
Hmm.
because so as a healthcare professional, as a nurse, um, I've always been into healing and helping people,
Hmm.
feel like BDSM is a way for people to express themselves and for people to help heal. So when I'm doing sessions, I see it more as like a therapy session than a BDSM session.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that. But when doing it for the camera, there's a lot more performing going on. And I don't feel like I'm really giving that person, like that therapy that they would get in a one-on-one personal session with
Hmm.
me. A lot more intimate because you just can't get that intimacy on camera.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting just you coming from a nursing background and then being in BDSM because in my head I'm like, it actually makes a lot of sense because you're having this intimate thing with a person, you're making sure they're okay even within this fairly extreme scene. But I think for the outsider, I think that they would be like, oh, that's the opposite. Nurses take
Right.
care of people, doms torture people. And it's like also I actually just had a screening in Amsterdam. It was a public disgrace scene, so it was like very intense. And I had a lot of questions where people are like, "How do you do aftercare with that? How do you do all this stuff?" And it's like, the more extreme stuff you do, the more precautions you have to take to make it safe. And I think that's like such an important conversation in BDSM. So I think a lot of people see a BDSM scene on camera and they're like, "Oh, no limits. You do whatever you want to the sub." And it's like that's not actually how it works.
And a lot of times I do try to incorporate a little bit of the pre part into it. Like I
Hmm.
know places like kink.com, they do like the before interview and the after
Yeah.
interview. I like to run a scene kind of a little bit like I would run an actual
Hmm.
scene, an actual session. Um, so you'll find in a lot of my videos, I'll kind of go in and, I'll be the mistress and I'm being introduced to to my sub.
Hmm.
And I kind of go over the like at a lot of scenes I'll go over the I do the traffic light system. So I'll
Hmm.
go over green light, yellow light, red light.
Yeah,
I like the viewers to know that too. Like I don't want them to think that I'm just going in and beating this person. Like I want them to know that there's limits and that there's consent, kind of like without actually saying there's consent, but just knowing that the person can stop it at any time. And
for
because I feel like
sure.
um and I like the real.
Yeah, also I think being in BDSM porn for so long, I started working at the Armory, I think when I was 22, 21, something like that. So it's been a minute. So like 10 years I've been in like the BDSM world. And I feel like for me as a viewer now, I like when they break the fourth wall where you're like, "Oh, this is a shoot. This girl is getting paid to be here, but this other girl's getting paid to dominate her, and that's pretty hot." Like, I think there's this certain element, especially of like lesbian BDSM, whether it's content trader and actual shoot, where it is performing and all this stuff, but at some moment, when you're getting hit by a flogger, it becomes real at some point. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And in a lot of my performing that I do, I'm not working with actual subs. Um,
Hmm.
a lot of times it's people that they've done a little bit of spanking and they're kind of curious. So a lot of times it is a little like it's real because it's their first Dom session. Um,
Yeah.
my subs well, a lot of the people that I perform with, they're really interested about it, and they afterwards they're like, "Wow, that was a lot of fun! Like I was really turned on. Like I've never experienced anything like that before." So that's really like again where it's not actually a therapy session, so to speak. It's still like I know they're getting something out of it, like they enjoyed the experience
Yeah.
and being able to give them their experience. So my big kink is being somebody's first. So like when I get to introduce people to that, like I love it. It's so much fun.
So like taking BDSMV cards, basically. That's like your jam.
And kind of V cards, just not the actual V card.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. I'm like, I know there's people who definitely have that kink, and that's a whole thing, but I'm like, I could not be in that situation.
I love
Like, yeah,
it.
even like I've had some shoots where I like got onto set and they're like, "Oh, you're the first trans woman I worked with," and I'm like, I wish I knew that more than 5 minutes before the scene. I'm like, that's a lot of pressure. Um, yeah. So after your first few shoots, was it just like going to Exotica or going to AVN that really like cemented it for you? You're like, I really want to pursue this.
It's AVN that really did it. I did, like I said, I didn't shoot anything in Jersey, but I was tested.
Hmm.
And see, I did two shoots that I organized. One was a sub that I pegged, and the other one was two girls, two females that I dommed. So those were, and actually that scene just came out probably a couple months ago. Both of those scenes, I had held on to those for a while because just the editing was just a nightmare because again, like the
It's so
camera
hard.
and the camera stuff were just not good. So it was a lot of work to edit. So I ended up handing it off to somebody to do. Um, but yeah, it was AVN. I organized an all-girl orgy. So we did that. And then I did a shoot with a company. Um, and it was a collab, it was a content trade. But yeah, after doing that, I was like, you know what? Like I really like this. And then my next event was XBiz Miami. And I did a lot of content there. And so they just kind of kept going and going.
Yeah, how do you feel? It sounds like you mostly shoot when you're traveling. I'm kind of in the same boat. But do you think like your location limits you a little bit, or do you kind of like the distance between the porn world and yourself at home?
I do find the distance limits me. Now it's not, I'm actually finding tons and tons of creators in the Carolinas, which is
That's
really
great.
so many more people. So I could probably do a lot of shoots in the Carolinas themselves. The big thing is just the testing. Because
Yeah.
talent testing is just so expensive. And in North Carolina, we have to pay the extra fees to like we had to pay the draw fees and we had to pay the extra shipment fees and everything else. So by the time it's all done, said and done, it costs us about
Oh
$350
my
to.
God.
So so that's why I tend to shoot around big events because I can get tested and then I try to make the most out of that test. Now between I test more than that. I do doctor's office tests, but again, some people are, not so okay with that. They want the talent testing.
I mean, that's just such an issue in this industry that there's not really affordable testing industry wide that you really have to either go through a doctor who I feel like most doctors, unless you're going to like a specific sex worker clinic, they're like, why are you getting tested every 3 weeks? And
Right.
you're like, oh, I'm a porn performer. And they're like, well, do you have anything? And you're like, no. And I feel like it's just always a kind of weird vibe. Like, I go to like a specifically gay clinic and they're always like, why are you here? Kind of where I'm like, I don't have anything. Never had anything in my life, but I have a shoot coming up. I want to be responsible.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's just so hard. It's like the one thing I wish that would change about the industry, that there would be some sort of advocacy group or state that would actually cover it, especially in like Nevada and California, where there's such a large industry presence here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know it is cheaper in Florida and California, and probably Nevada. Um, but no, I mean, it's not that much more affordable either.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, still $200 for a test or
Still, that's a lot.
150. It's a lot of money. And it's
Mhm.
crazy because I moved to San Francisco originally to work for King, and then
Okay.
during the pandemic, talent testing left the Bay, so there's no talent testing here at all anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
crazy.
it's like this weird situation where it's like, okay, if you have a mainstream shoot, you better hop off the plane at LAX and just go immediately to talent testing or in Vegas.
Yeah. Hmm.
So how do you usually like prepare for a scene? Like, is it pretty organic that people reach out to you, you reach out to them, and you guys come up with something together? Or do you usually have like bigger concepts that you're trying to accomplish? Or what's kind of your creative process with that?
I don't like scripts. I
Same.
like natural. I just like to go with the flow.
hmm
So I will generally, I'll reach out to people or they'll reach out to me about doing a scene, and I'll ask them if they had anything specific they want to do. If they do, then we could talk about it a little bit. If they don't, then I like to have an idea going in, like just kind of a premise of how the scene started,
hmm
and then just go with the flow and just porn scenes are a lot easier to do that with. So are the BDSM scenes though, because I'm in control. So I just kind of do my thing. And prior to the scene, I will ask them what their do's and don'ts are and
hmm
comfortable with. Give them the spiel about the traffic light system in a little bit more detail than I would do
Yeah,
on the video. Tell them other things because a lot of times, like my goal is not to make somebody call red or even yellow.
for
Um,
sure.
those are there as safety mechanisms. So sometimes people don't want to ruin the video by calling, yellow or something. So I also use a lot of hand signals and stuff too. And I watch body language. So yeah, my goal is not to make somebody call yellow or red. I just want to give them the best experience possible and then make a good video out of it too.
For sure. I just had the screening in Amsterdam of my public disgrace scene, and I didn't realize the editor left one of the reds in. And I said red in the scene, and when I'm watching, I'm like, oh my God, they fucked up. Oh my God. But then in the Q&A afterwards, all the people were like, wow, it was so great to see active consent and for a sub to say red and the scene to stop and then continue. I'm like, oh, I never
Wow,
would have thought of it that way. You know what I mean?
yeah, that would be kind of cool. Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess.
where I'm like, okay, because I feel like in our own heads when we're shooting a scene, we're like, okay, it needs to seem like a perfect scene. It needs to seem seamless.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, leaving some of like the humanity and like the actual stuff that can happen in BDSM. I think in some ways it can be good, which I did not feel when I was watching the movie. I had full blown like anxiety sweat. I'm like, I should have told the editor to check that again. I should have done all of this.
Uh,
Do you think you're gonna continue like in the whole BDSM realm more, or do you think you would like want to continue doing both like more mainstream stuff, or would you rather like kind of more go into the mainstream realm?
I really like both. I like the variety.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy doing mainstream, but I'm one that tends to get bored easily. So I feel like if I was just doing mainstream, then I might get burnt out. I might not enjoy it quite as much. So I like the variety of being able to throw in a dom scene there. So like to be able to go in and do a porn scene and get fucked like super hard and just get fucked great, and then go in and put on the leather and the latex and the boots and then go and beat the shit out of somebody. So and then
You can
drunk
do
and strap
both.
on. So I do like that variety.
For sure. Yeah, I feel early in my career I did a lot of mainstream stuff and it was like they were like covering up all my tattoos and like being like you have to take piercings out and all this stuff where I'm like I'm glad I have that in my past, but
Right.
also I feel like BDSM is definitely like the way that I feel
Yeah.
like I can really express myself. I also feel like in BDSM, I don't know if you can relate to this. I feel like doing it on camera, you can really do more things that you really want to do and really express in like an artistic way. Where I feel like in real life, a lot of these things are a lot harder. Like trying to orchestrate a threesome in a BDSM context. Real life, it feels a lot harder than doing it in a work context or shooting a gangbang or something like that.
Yeah, definitely trying to shoot with more than one person is not the easiest thing to do. But like you said, like in a BDSM context, it's a lot easier because I mean, I'm the mistress, I'm in control. So if I want them to do something, I just tell them what I want them to do. Whereas in an orgy or threesome situation with mainstream porn, um, I don't really have that kind of control. It's more of, it's supposed to be more light and airy, and you can't just say, go lay down over there.
That does like being a pro sub, it does help me whenever I'm nervous before a scene. I just remember I'm like, oh, the Dom's just gonna tell me what to do. I don't have to think. It's fine. I'm like, I got this. I'm like, I don't have to think of all that stuff. Yeah, so do you have like any big scene that you really like have a dream scene that you want to do because you've been in the industry for about a year and a half now? I feel like getting an AVN nomination in that time period, that's a major accomplishment. I feel like just hearing how you're approaching it sounds like you're gonna be in this industry for a minute. Is there any like big project that you would love to have come together?
Um, I don't really have any specific project ideas at this point.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple people I'd really like to work with. I'd love to work with Subgirl and Rebel Rider. Both of them, like, just
Mm.
love the hell out of them. And also, I mean, working with kink.com is kind of a dream, as far as the BDSM realm goes.
Yeah.
But I'd love to work with some other big name agencies as far as like just mainstream porn also. So I've got lots of goals, and just at this point, I'm just trying to get my content out there. I've got such a huge backlog of content because I just wasn't, I don't think I was treating my business as a business last year. I was still
Yeah.
getting everything very new. So now I've got a little bit more help. I've got people helping me edit, that kind of thing. So that's really helped. So I'm really trying to get all my backlog of content out there so that I can start, and I've also been releasing some of my newer content too, but I'm just trying to get more on top of things, I guess. So that's cool for this year. And then for later in the year, next year, I'd love to be able to shoot with some bigger name agencies.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good problem to have is having too much content that you've already shot.
True.
I mean, I feel like that's one of the hardest parts about porn is just when you have a bunch of content, getting started on editing it, getting it out there. Like, I have always so much stuff that I'm like, I eventually need to edit this. I don't know when, but I'm going to.
Right. Definitely a lot of work.
Yeah, so have you ended up in like any places that like you didn't really expect because of porn so far? Like, did you expect that you were gonna like go to AVN and like be kind of on this? It feels like there's almost like the circuit of porn touring where it's like you go to Exotica, you go to XBiz Miami, XBiz LA, AVN. Like, did you expect to kind of get swept up in all of this?
Honestly, I don't know what I expected. So, like when I went to Exotica, New Jersey, everything it was so overwhelming. It was just all in my face, and I
Hmm.
really knew what I was getting myself into at that point. When I went to DC, I kind of had my feet under me a little bit more, kind of knew what to expect and where to go. But I just don't know. I don't think I ever really thought about where I would go. I remember last year at AVN, I met he's actually an amazing friend of mine now. And we hung out quite a bit at AVN last year. And he introduced
Hmm.
me to some people. And he had said to me, he's like, well, next year you're going to be up on that stage. And I just laughed at him. And like, yes, no, I wasn't up on the stage, but just to be nominated is such a huge honor. Like I
For
last year,
real.
and if you would ask me, like, do you think you'll be nominated this year? Like, I just would have been like, no, you're crazy. Like, that's never going to happen. So that was huge, just that alone.
I feel like that's what people really need to understand about porn is just even making it to AVN as a nominee is like a lot of people's like entire careers work where there's people who've been in this industry for 10 years and they get one AVN nomination and that's like their big moment. And like for me every year at AVN, it always blows my mind just like how vast our industry is, that there's people from all over the world in it, all body types, all doing all sorts of stuff. Like, what did you really take from your first AVN experience? Because it's such a big thing, like being in the middle of all of that whole whirlwind of all those people there, fans, the giant convention, everyone shooting porn, like all the craziness.
Um, I don't know. I think I was just kind of taking it all in the first year. It was just a lot, and it was an experience. It was exciting. It was really great to see everything that was going on, and just and just to be able to be a part of it. And then this year to be even more of a part of it, to actually feel like I contributed to the industry this year, was probably the biggest takeaway that I had this year.
Yeah, where were you when you found out about your nomination? Like, what was your response to that? Because I remember my first one, I was at a bar in Boston at like 3 in the morning. I was like out with my friends. It was their 21st birthday, and I found out on my phone at the bar, and like all of our friend group was like, "Oh my God, what the fuck? How is this happening?"
I was at home. I was at my computer and somebody had posted something on Twitter. They're like, "Congratulations!" And I was like, "Huh?" And then I looked at it. Like, oh my God! Oh my God! What? I was nominated for an AVN, and like I went and checked. I was like, "Okay, this can't be real." So I went and checked. I was like, "Holy shit!" So yeah, it just yeah, I was not expecting that at all. It just totally yeah surprised me.
Was that like your first like red carpet award show experience?
Yeah, my very first red carpet. That
Do you have
was
any takeaways from that? Like, that's just like such a whole different world because I feel like it's like, okay, I'm performing, I'm maybe at like a hotel room, I might go to a dungeon and shoot, but then all of a sudden you're like kind of a mini celebrity for a weekend.
Yeah, no, it was really neat. It was nice to be able to. It was fun walking the red carpet for one,
Hmm.
but also to actually have people know who I am and to say my name when I like have my fans as I'm walking there, like
Hmm.
Cora Bell, Mistress Cora Bell, and to want for them to want to take pictures with me and all that. That was just it just kind of blew me away. And I did carry my flogger down the red carpet too. So I was like, you know what? I'm being nominated as favorite Dom.
On
My
brand.
my dress was my brand color, so black and red. And then of course my flogger's black and red. So I was like, yeah, I have to have the flogger. I had some nice pictures of me posing with my flogger.
It's so amazing. I really like the red carpet this year. Like, how was really fans around the whole area? Like, the last few years with it being at Resorts World, like, there was very little fan interaction, and I feel like people were also so respectful and so kind. Where sometimes on the red carpet, you have some fans who are maybe, trying to be a little pervy or whatever. And I did not get that vibe at all this year. Did you?
No, I didn't at all. No, I had seen the red carpet last year.
Hmm.
Um, I actually kind of went with a friend and watched back like behind the scenes. But yeah, I don't think there was fans that were allowed, like fans weren't allowed to be back there at Resorts World.
Yeah, it was really different. It was also like a tent. So it definitely
Yeah,
felt like more like maybe like LA award show, like how I imagine the Grammys or something to be, where it was
right.
just the photographers and stuff. But
Mm.
yeah, I'm really glad you had your first experience with that, and hopefully there's many more to come. Like, I
I
feel like
hope
your
so.
first year, you're always gonna remember it though. Like, I feel like that first experience for me is still always 100% there where I'm like, oh my God, I remember meeting this person or that person. Was there anyone who you like really looked up to the industry who you got a chance to talk with or anything like that?
I don't think. I mean, I really look up to like the people who I met like the very first Exotica, like
Hmm.
uh, being able to meet them and just having like just how nice they were to me and how human
Yeah,
and they took the time to talk to me was so I do really look up to Lauren Phillips, Rocky Emerson, um, yeah, but
that's so
all
great.
of them are absolutely amazing people and just fun to hang out with.
It's great. Yeah, I feel like that's one of like the best things about AVN is just I think being around that many other sex workers and porn performers for that period of time where you just start to feel normal about your job, where you're like, oh yeah, there's this whole world of people that have my job. And it's not this thing that's like even just like being on your like Twitter or whatever at AVN, you don't feel like you have to hide it from people. Where if I'm on like public transit, I'm like,
I
I'm
know.
like, I don't want everyone to see what I'm looking at.
My back is facing a wall at all times.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Actually, you
I
said you meet anybody that I really look up to. I don't even know how I forgot this one. I got to actually sit and have drinks with Kendra James
Oh
and
my
her
God, that's a good
husband,
one.
the rapper. So I had met her before. I met her at the Fetish Factory in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale last year.
Hmm.
And then I met her and we chatted for a few minutes. Like yeah, I'm fangirling. Like she
Yeah.
my idol. I would have to say her, Kendra James and Zara DeRose as far as the BDS community goes. But Kendra James,
Yeah.
yes, I friend knew her husband, so we went over there and we were talking to them, and they invited us to sit down and have drinks with them. So that was just like I was, and I didn't have a voice because I was still kind of sick, and so I
Yeah.
like speaking, and I felt so bad because like I would have loved I would have just talked her ear off. I would have loved to actually talk to her and ask her more questions, but because it was so hard for me to talk, but yeah, I wasn't able to kind of talk as much as I would have liked to. But that was absolutely amazing experience. That was probably the best experience from AVN, was being able to meet her again and sit chat with her, and maybe now she'll remember. Well, she did remember me, but maybe she'll remember me a little bit more now.
I feel like that's one of the most fun parts about ABN because I feel like also like in sex work and porn, I think it can be very isolating where you're like, oh, I'm making all this work. My fans buy it, obviously, and there's this, but I feel like it's very easy to feel isolated and that there's not these like people who are inspired by you or who are your fans within the industry. And then when you get that experience on either side where you get to share with another sex worker that, like, I ran into Joanna Angel there and I was just like, oh my God, I was emo in high school and I didn't know I could do porn until your work, and now I do. It's just like hugged her, and it was like, okay, that's my moment for this one. Like that's terrific.
That's
Or I got
exactly.
to meet Angela White last year. And I was just like, oh my God, you're Angela White, and said like a bunch of dumb things.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's it. Definitely just being able to meet people in person is it's kind of yeah, it's kind of a surreal experience, really.
Yeah, I'm kind of sorry you did not get a better musical guest this year. Jason Derulo was not it, I don't think.
No, it was, I mean, yeah, it was okay, but
Yeah. In like the last 5 years, there was Lil Wayne one year, there was Cardi B one year, so I feel like the
Cardi,
levels dropped. Hmm?
Cardi B was last year, I think.
I think that was before the pandemic. It was my partner's first year, and they were like, if you can get me to meet Cardi B, I will do anything for you. And we got to go on stage and they got to meet Cardi B. And I'm like,
Oh my God, that's absolutely amazing.
I feel like that's my biggest flex as a partner. I'm like, I got you to meet Cardi B on stage at AVN. That's enough. So I have a few more questions for you. Um, so what do you still really want to like accomplish in your career? Because obviously you're getting yourself established. You got your first AVN nomination. Is there any like big goals you have for yourself, like long term?
Um, I really haven't thought too long term. Like I said, I was kind of thrown into all this and just jumped in with both feet. And I really, I mean, if you had asked me 2 or 3 years ago, if I what I would be doing in 2025, I would not have told you that I'd be doing porn. Like this the farthest thing from my mind possible. So
Yeah,
just to be here right now is kind of crazy. But like I said earlier, like my goal is to shoot with some big name mainstream industries, agencies, and kink.com. I think that's probably my biggest goals going forward. And then really just to kind of continue doing this to get more award nominations, maybe to actually win an award would be awesome. Um, but just I think overall, um, to be able to be a good role model for people and to help, kind of bring the community together because everybody else is out there hating on us. Like we don't need to hate on each other.
for
So
sure.
be able to try to, I don't know, I think I foresee myself doing something more in the industry as far as, helping the industry. I don't know, just being an advocate or something, but I haven't quite figured out where all that fits in, but I'm sure everything will just fall into place when it's time.
Yeah, there's definitely not a handbook for how to get into porn or what to do in a porn career, which is very There was a point like maybe like 6 years ago where I was in the industry for like 5, 6 years at the time. I'm like, okay, so is there like a book of what you do next in your career? And it's just like, there's nothing. You just have to figure it out. And I think that you're showing such positive consent in your work. I think that's doing a lot of positive already for people who are exploring BDSM first through porn and then trying to do these things in their everyday life. I think that's like a really big positive and really influencing people's sexuality in a really positive way.
I guess I never thought about it that way. So yeah, that's, I'd definitely like to continue doing that.
I'm like, if this show is nothing else, it's just me trying to go deep about porn with porn performers and being like, your work is so important and the impact it has. So I'm glad I can do that. Also, once you win awards, you obviously have to come back on and we have to talk about the post celebration and all of that stuff. What are you like most proud of that you've done so far?
Um, there's one video that I'm pretty proud of, that I did. I did it with West Philly Dom.
Hmm.
It was just a sex scene with us. So we have kind of like this connection, this chemistry, I guess, between the two of
Hmm.
us. We're both Doms. So we tend to kind of go at each other, like, like Dom versus Dom a lot. So our very first scene
Yeah.
that we shot together was a Dom versus Dom scene. And then we did a sex scene. And then we kind of got to know each other a little bit better. And we shot this like crazy sex scene where we're kind of going back and forth at each other. But it's not really like the first scene that we did was kind of more of a consensual, non-consensual kind of scene.
Mm,
Like, just like a sex scene where like, he would take control and I would take control, like just the power, you could see that power struggle.
yeah.
And so that's probably one of my favorite videos that I've shot and that I'm most proud of. Um, so yeah.
Has the reception been pretty good to it?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people commenting on it and saying that they'd like to see more with him and more scenes like that.
It's always such a great feeling when you make something and you're so stoked about it, and then you release it and people have that same feeling about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like it's the worst when you like shoot something and you're absolutely in love with it and then you put it out and people are like, "Oh, it's fine. I like this one more though." And you're just like, "You don't understand though."
Yeah, they like one of my like least favorite videos. I'm like, really? I didn't like that one.
That's how it is when people like hit me up about stuff I did really early in my career where they're like, "I'm your biggest fan," and they're like, "Yeah, you did like this boy girl scene in a bedroom and it was super soft and super nice lighting." And I'm like, "That's not what I do now though." I'm usually like in a cage or like getting
Right.
electrocuted or something.
Fun too.
Right? I'm like not for everyone, but so I have one final question for you. First off, thanks just so much for taking the time to talk to me and just tell me about your whole career and your whole story. Like it's truly so special. This is my only kind of like BuzzFeed kind of question. I try to avoid these, but if you could magically change one thing in porn, so tomorrow you wake up and it's magically different, what would you have that be?
I guess just the people's perception. So nothing really in the industry itself, just the
Hmm.
perception that it's bad. I mean, people in the normal world just view porn as so horrible and evil and sexuality, and especially now with everything being so open as far as, like being able to choose your pronouns and
Yeah.
uh, and I'm not very well versed in all that, but just where sexuality is becoming so open, for porn to still be so taboo and closed off and frowned upon, whereas like, I mean, sex is normal, sex is good, it's healthy. We should be promoting that, promoting safe sex practices, as opposed to, you shouldn't be having sex. So now you've got kids out there who are trying to have sex without condoms and protection and stuff and birth control, where if we promoted, okay, you know what, yeah, you shouldn't be having sex until marriage, however, if you do, use this protection, that kind of thing. I just think things should be more open, and it just shouldn't be frowned upon like it is.
For sure. I think that's a really good answer. I also feel like so much of that is so like United States specific too. Like I think our sex education here is just so poor. Like I don't know if you had those people. Well, probably not because you're in Canada. I'm assuming your sex education is probably a little bit better than in the States.
I think it's a little better, but I don't think it's the greatest though.
My high school had this lady come in. It was like I did not go to a Christian school, but she was like of a Christian organization, and she was like, one in every three people is gonna get an STI here, and they're gonna have it forever. And it's like that's not statistically true, but it was a whole lecture that was 2 hours of
Wow.
her just on stage in our high school theater, just ranting about that stuff, and it's like there wasn't really any education behind it. It was just like truly kind of like in Mean Girls, where it's just like true scare tactics, where it's like you're gonna get pregnant, you will die, you will
So there
get.
was there was no like, you can prevent STIs by using condoms, and you can prevent pregnancy by using birth control, and nothing like that.
No, it was also like if you do anal, you will bleed out and die.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
like what?
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I live close to Canada, like 2 hours away, but we did not have the Canadian education system at all.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think it's just so crazy because porn does de facto become sex education, and especially in the States where I think our work is so important because people are looking at that as, like it or not, kind of a how to have sex.
Right. Hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's like so important that you are showing so much consent in BDSM because BDSM without consent can go so bad
Yeah.
and really violate people's consent. So I think that there's BDSM practitioners who are doing it the right way. I think that's really important. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I had such a great time chatting with you and just learning about all you're doing, and I really can't wait to see what more you accomplish in your career. I'm sure there's gonna be big things coming for you. I'm sure this is not gonna be your last AVN. I'm sure we'll see each other again and hopefully
Hopefully
our
work together.
schedules yeah, hopefully work together and our schedules aren't crazy. Hopefully you don't get sick at AVN again. Hopefully I don't have to spend an entire day trying to get my AVN passes figured out.
Yeah. Agreed.
But
Well, it was
we're
talking to
oh
you
go
too.
on.
It was
Yeah.
absolutely talking to you, and I would definitely like to do it again.
Yeah, likewise. Where can everyone find you on like social media? Do you have a website where people can join and look at your work?
I do. The best place to find me is on my website, which is mistresscorabell.com. And my videos, it links to my videos and all my other social media, but my videos are all on corabellproductions.com. And then my Twitter and Instagram is Mistress Corabell with one L.
Well, thank you so much for everything, and I'm so glad that we could talk. Whenever I get to talk to another BDSM performer about BDSM, it's always a great day. So thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for listening. And yeah, bye everyone.